I was part of the most elite, well-trained unit in the United States Navy for almost 10 years. It's not the Navy SEALs, my friend. It's the Navy Band. Well, when they pick you up on that bus from the airport, everyone's still kind of joking around and I'm from Texas and I'm from this state and that state and hey, this about my girlfriend and my car and I went to this party last weekend and, as soon as that recruit commander steps onto the bus, life changes very quickly. He stepped on board and as loud as he could shout, he said, "Shut the fuck up and sit down. You are property of the United States Navy now." So as you can imagine, the rest of the bus ride to the recruit training center was dead silent. We were kind of looking around each other. You could see the look in everybody's face like, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into? And yeah, we sat there in silence. And as we pulled up close to the recruit training center, the company commander stood up again. And I think they only had one volume in their speaking voice, and that was about 12 on a 10 scale. And he stood up and he started giving us instructions and said, hey, when the bus stops, you're going to hear your name, go stand in front of that person. And they divvied us up into our different groups. And then the first stop we got to, everybody was yelling at you the whole time. You had to take all your personal belongings and put them in a bag. And they handed you a bunch of stuff. Here's a sea bag. Take 4 pairs of dungaree pants. They're these funny bell bottoms. Take 4 of these dress tops. Take 4 of this. Take some socks. Get your shoes. And you put it all in this bag, and then we marched out. Our first time marching in unison. Wasn't so pretty at that moment, but we made it over to our barracks, and that's where we were going to live for the next 8 weeks. So, it's just 2 little bunk beds on each side down in a long row down this hall. I think we had about 40 people in our class when I started. So you can imagine a bunch of bunk beds and pairs on each side going down this hall. And just like the movies, here comes your company commander down the middle of the row. And same thing. He had one volume. That was it. It was about a 15 on a 10 scale. And he's telling you, put all your stuff down and that's your locker. Here's your lock for your locker. Don't ever leave your locker unlocked. Put everything, and he started going through an order. You had to have your shoes on one rack. You had to have your shirts hanging up from a certain place. You had to have your socks into the 3rd drawer from the top on the left. And as he went down all these things, you could see him walking down the aisle and, watching everybody put their stuff away. And of course, he would stop here and there. What the fuck are you doing? The socks go on the 3rd. Put them on there now. And you can imagine it's just terrifying. You're thinking, oh my God, this is going to be 8 weeks. Am I going to make it through? Well, Navy boot camp was really, in my opinion, all about one thing. That was breaking you down, getting rid of your ego and making you realize you're just one part of a big machine and you have to follow orders. So after we put all our stuff in our locker and we got to see our company commander for the first time, we started marching around, and that was a big part of boot camp. All marching in order. You go from the barracks to the chow hall to work out, to do this or to do that, but you're always forming up, marching around, and then doing whatever you're going to do and come back. Yeah, it doesn't take very long, and you get into that routine, wake up ridiculously early every day, and he screams every morning, get you out of bed quickly, you jump into your uniform, and you're already marching. You're out the door. About the only time you're not marching is when you're doing PT or physical training. So we'd get onto our PT outfits, which was shorts and a Navy t-shirt, and some tennis shoes. They'd line us all up outside and, okay, guys, we're going to start running, jog 1, 2, 3, and then you take off and you're running and you're stopping and doing push-ups and you're running and you're stopping and doing sit-ups and you're running. And as you can imagine, it's just like nonstop. Really, it was like 8 weeks of excruciating exercise and mental toughness. It's just nonstop. They never give you a chance to sit down and take a break. Yeah, about the only time you actually got to sit down and take a breath for a moment was at your lunch break and your dinner break. And so we would all form up in formation. We'd march over to the chow hall. Everybody would grab their food. You'd go sit down. Absolutely no talking while you're sitting at the chow hall. So everyone's sitting in silence, stuffing food down their face as fast as you could, because you knew that was the only time you could eat very quickly, and you'd have just a moment break before they got you back up. You're back in formation. You're marching to the next place, and that was life for 8 weeks straight. And so that was the next 8 weeks of my life. It was really, really tough. I can't even explain to you, unless you've gone through boot camp. It's one of those things where they have ultimate control. You have no control over anything, and you just think, I've got to make it through. So kept my head down every day, got up early, getting yelled at from the moment you get up till the time you go to bed, marching around, running around, doing sit-ups, getting your little time at the chow hall. About 6 weeks, actually, the boot camp commander started to get a little bit nicer to us, just realizing, these guys are probably going to make it through. We had a number of guys drop out. They get kicked out of boot camp and disappear. You never see them again. And it dwindled down to probably 30 of us made it through. And right at the end, we would start getting in formation. We went down to this big auditorium, and you would march around in a really specific sequence. Take a left, and then you go right, and then you do a circle, and you do this, and there's guys in the front with flags, and they're raising them up and lowering them down, and everything was in a perfect choreograph. And as we were marching around, I hardly noticed, but there was a band up in the stands there, and they were playing live music. So the last couple of weeks, every time we went into this big auditorium, there was a live band. They would start playing marches and things like that as we went around in our little patterns. And, that was that. So we made it through. We're getting right towards the end. And about the last week or so, you're kind of realizing, oh, my God, I'm going to make it. I'm going to survive. And then just a few days before boot camp ended, we all got our orders. So, the company commander had everybody lined up, and he was walking around handing out pieces of paper. And every time he'd hand a piece of paper out, he'd say, Jones, you're going to aircraft maintenance school. That's in Georgia. It's 7 weeks long. And you get to the next guy, Smith, you're going to be a cook. That's in Maine, and you're going to be up in Maine for 2 months. And then, of course, they get to me, and they yell out, Bragg, you're going to be, what the fuck? Oh, my God, guys. Bragg is going to be in the Navy band, you little pussy. And they all started laughing. Everyone thought it was hilarious. And sure enough, I get my orders. I'm going to Little Creek, Virginia. And that school of music was about 3 months long. And I was starting that, got to get a little bit of leave to go home. And that was on another plane out to Virginia. Hey, thanks so much for listening, friends. I hope you enjoyed my stories about boot camp. And next episode, we're going off to Little Creek, Virginia. And I learned to march and play music at the same time for the first time and get on with my Navy band career. Once again, fair winds and following seas.